Welcome to the first episode of the Balanced Virtual Trainer Podcast. My name is Tyler Valencia. I'm the president of KIPS, Time to Train Fitness, and your brand ambassador for balance. Today, we have somebody on the podcast to kick it off that has invested a lot of time, money in the virtual space. She is somebody that has her own format for instructors, but also her own platform. We have Aimee Nicotera of the E5 Collective here to share tips, all this great advice for you, our listeners today. First of all, Aimee, thank you for being my guest on the podcast.
Thank you, Tyler. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, for the first one, I thought of you and I'm like, I got to get her on this. We got to get Aimee on here to talk about virtual training. And you have such a great story to share just with your experiences, what you're doing now in the virtual space, not just for instructors, but for your own clients. So let's start the episode by give a little background, give a little brief introduction on what you're doing in the virtual space, and then we'll jump into how it functions.
All right. So basically, I got started even thinking about the virtual space due to the COVID pandemic, and I lost my job that I had full-time with a large corporate gym chain. So I was basically forced to think of something to do. And in my own area, gyms were closing down, brick and mortars were not open, and or people were trying to hurry up and find out a way that they could service their current membership with some virtual experiences, whether they were live or recorded. So I had some friends who really encouraged me to, just try to get started and just do something over Zoom. So I actually just started kind of playing around with doing some fitness classes over Zoom platform and just kind of playing with the whole idea. I had friends kind of join in. It wasn't anything really formal. I didn't charge. And I just wanted to see if it was something that I could do or even figure out how to work. So one thing led to another. It turned out great. And I had to do a lot of research on how to refine using Zoom, how I was going to collect payment, how I was going to put together a schedule, how I could get everything from recordings to work, to my microphone to work, to my background to look professional. So a lot went into it, but that is actually how I got started and how I basically the foundation of building this whole virtual platform I have now.
Wow. Prior to filming, doing all this great stuff that you're doing now, did you have any experience with filming, setting up cameras, anything like that?
That's a great question. I did at the time have experience being in front of camera and filming educational courses and filming, as the instructor, some, instructor consumer products. And so I did have that experience talking to no one and making it seem like I was talking to someone. I have my own line of DVDs out, so I was used to that.
DVDs?
But you can never be too good at that. I want to say, even now I feel like I'm really good at it, but there are still times when I get flustered or mess up or whatever. But I had experience in that regard, but I did not have experience as far as all the technical stuff goes, like how do I get to a mic and integrating Zoom and recording things. All of that I did not know how to do.
Yeah. I think that's the majority of fitness pros out there that are on the virtual space, is that they might have done a couple of videos here and there, not to the extent that you've done with education, but they might have tried being on camera for their social media, or maybe they're going to put something up for their blog, but doing a full workout, 15, 20, 45 minutes, it's a whole nother ballpark. You are trying to set all this up and then, where do I go? What do I do after this? So it's a whole new area to learn. And I think I know that we've talked about before, the mindset to do it. How do I learn all these things? Where do I go to find this information? Who can I talk to that's going to help me with setting things up in this area? So to kind of go deeper into that now, can you give a little background on your setup? So what is it typically like? What are your key pieces of equipment that when you're going to film a workout, what are those key pieces that you're like, okay, I have to have these set up. I have to make sure I check all these settings before I hit record?
All right. Great question. I feel like there's a lot of answers. Number one, I think it depends on what platform you're using. If you're using just straight up Zoom, or if you have some other online platform that you have integrated with, it's going to change things just a bit. But as far as the actual technical equipment, I use an external camera that it plugs into my computer through a USB port. And that camera is like not it's not doesn't shoot 4K, it's 1080, but it's pretty good. It's pretty crisp. So that was an upgrade in as opposed to better than what my laptop had. Now, phones and iPads have better cameras, and you
Hmm.
can integrate that. But that's one thing. So I use this external camera. Then I also have a mixing board, which allows me to send my music and my voice through one channel because I use Zoom and Zoom has one audio channel. So that allows me to take both the music and the voice through Zoom. So I have to check whether my camera's on. I check whether my USB mic or mixer is plugged in correctly. If I have the settings in my Zoom account correct as to where my mic is, where I'm hearing things from. I also use an external speaker that's just for me to hear music. So I teach a variety of formats, but when I'm doing something rhythmic, that requires me to be on the beat or requires musicality, I need to hear the music loudly, and so do my participants. So I have something separate that plays that music without a lag. So there's very little lag
Hmm.
between what my participants are hearing and what I am hearing. I also have some lights that have to go on. I have some lights behind the camera. I have also lights that project through my background that are clearly off frame, but they light up my space. So those are the main things that I check. Make sure all the computer stuff's on, the cameras are working. I remind myself to hit record. I actually created a checklist because there were times that I would forget something.
Hmm.
So I have that little checklist just posted, even though I've done it 100 times, just to make sure.
Hmm.
But those I think are the main things that I check.
Yeah, yeah. A key point that I want to hit on is whatever platform that you're on, that will dictate where you go from there. If you're looking at a diagram of step one and where do you go from there, your platform. The tip that I'm going to give, and just from experience being on different little podcast shows, whatever it might be, or doing tutorials for YouTube, and these questions come in about, okay, I have this, this, and this. Will this work? Your platform is going to dictate it. The best example I can give is that with Time to Train, the company that I own, that we use iPads, iPhones, and music interfaces, audio interfaces, but that setup will not integrate as well within Zoom. And Zoom is one of the major platforms that people are using these days, and it's because of the app. So the Zoom app at the time was just not up to date to be able to function correctly. So you would have to utilize a computer, some type of desktop, laptop, in order to utilize the browser version of it. So I know I might have mentioned things there. What's he talking about? I don't even know what he's saying. But next question I have for you along the same lines, because I know I get this question all the time, is what mixer board are you using and what microphone are you using?
I use I don't know if I'm going to pronounce it correctly, but I think it's a Xenix
Mm-hmm.
Q802 USB mixer. So it's XENYX, and then it's the letter Q802 USB. So it does make a difference of whether it's a USB mixer or not, because the
Mm-hmm.
USB mixer allows you to attach it to your laptop through a USB port.
Mm-hmm. And
Um,
I got a note
yeah.
right here that for everybody listening, and at that point when I asked it, Aimee did stand up and go over the camera to look and see what it was called. But
I always
continue.
forget how to spell it. And I want to say too that I was recommended that mixing board from another colleague in the fitness industry. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a good lesson to reach out to people who are navigating the same waters you are, and people are happy to help.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
Yeah, my
I
mic is I use a Shure BLX4. So it's if you're a Group X instructor, you're used to having a receiver
mm,
and a microphone with a mic pack. And I actually have my headset connected to my mic pack and I wear a traditional mic belt. This is not how I started, but this is where I went quickly, fairly quickly into my journey into virtual fitness because this is solid.
mhm.
I don't want to talk about how great it is because something will probably happen and I'll jinx myself. But it's a higher, quality, a little bit more expensive, but I was using a USB mic and it was great for a while, but the quality of just like the cords and the cables wasn't there for what I was doing with it. And so it didn't last long.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yep. Yep. I have to add on to that about the microphone because in my opinion, that's one of the most key parts of your whole setup and the one to invest in a higher quality because I can't tell you how many instructors I've seen. And I know people maybe listening, be like, well, this one's working for me. Well, that's great. Is the quality that good? Is it going to last years? Maybe, maybe not, but Shure is a high end name within microphones. They make a lot of podcasting microphones, other types of microphones. And if you are teaching group exercise, there's a good chance that you may, I will say in a brick and mortar, there's a good chance that you've already used one and you just didn't know it because they are it's a quality brand that gyms, people that set all that stuff up for gyms that they know that's going to work for them, that they don't have to come back the next month, 3 months from now to come fix it, replace it. And so they use that company brand. So I know that when you see the prices of microphones, being in the fitness industry, we're not used to paying hundreds of dollars for something that you're like, wait, do I need to buy this? Right. But there's one on Amazon for $20 that I can use. It's something that it's hard to wrap your brain around sometimes, but if you do it, you're going to have a lot less headaches. I'll say that right off the bat. I can't tell you how many videos, workouts that I've had ruined by microphones, bad audio. And so investing in that one is just one less thing in your brain to not have to worry about. And I think that's more important than getting something that's $20 and you're like, but it sounds okay and it works for now. But is it going to work? Is it going to give you more headaches? There's a good chance. I'll say there's a good chance. And you can come back to me in the future and write it in the comments and tell me how I was right. Or if I was wrong, you can tell me that too. I'm okay with that.
well, I'll say my own personal experience. I was using a different setup without the receiver. Like I said, it was just a USB stick, and I
Mhm.
paired the mic pack to the stick. Probably not using the right words. Anyways, I thought it was brilliant and it was great. And then
Mhm.
I realized like well, there were a few problems. I wanted to use a different camera that
Mhm.
also plugged into a USB. You have only so many USB ports. If you have a port that holds multiple USBs, you have to have a charger for that port in order for them to all work. There was a lot of
Mhm.
navigation on that end. And then one day it didn't work and
Mhm.
I couldn't figure out why. And I was in the middle of a class and I had a ton of stuff planned in the next few days, and I had a complete freak out because I had no backup. And now
Yeah.
at this point I was collecting money, and
Mm.
now you're in the position where you're providing a service and
Yeah.
you're a legit business and people are relying on you, and that's where you have to decide, okay, I'm just going to fork over a couple $100. I actually got a good setup, and I even bought an extra headset just in
Mhm.
case.
Yeah.
So now I don't have that stress because it was really a panic that night that happened.
Yep. 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 I like everything about that, not just the extra investment in a headset, but I think it really just hits the point of don't stress yourself out when you can control that. You can control having to not worry about one of the most important parts of your virtual setup by just investing a little bit more in it. And I mean, there's a lot on the market. Aimee shared what she's using right now. I can tell you that I have a handful of microphones myself, and microphones are, oh, it depends on what you're doing. It really depends on what you're doing
Mhm.
because virtual work.
And
Go ahead.
yeah, just to sorry to interrupt, but
That's okay.
I was just thinking, sometimes I've been on different podcasts and I haven't even used a mic. Right now I'm using a mic through my
Mm-hmm.
mixer because it does not pick up outside noise. So
Hmm.
sometimes you are able to use your computer or whatever, like your laptop, that microphone, but the problem is you get all this external noise.
Yeah.
So to your point, it really depends on what you're doing, when you're doing it,
Hmm.
and how clearly you need to be heard
Yeah.
and how professional you want to sound. Do people, whoever you're talking
That's
to,
it
do
right
they
there.
want to hear your dog barking or your kid crying or whatever else is happening in your neighborhood, the leaf blower guy out the window, and so it really, those are all things to consider.
Yep, 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 yep. And when you go on Amazon, if you just type microphone, you're going to see so many things. The best tip I can give you, because on my desk right now, I have three different types of microphones, which is crazy. You're probably, why does he have all those? Um, is to look for a lavalier microphone. Um, Something that is easier to find is a lavalier microphone, but the one that Aimee has is kind of a lav. Um, but look at name brands as well. The lavalier that I use a lot with instructors, and that all the instructors I have, they use the Rode, um, use the brand Rode, and we use the Rode Go. But Shure is a good one to look for. Look on Amazon, find those, and look at the reviews, all that kind of stuff. But if you're getting microphones, when you look up on Amazon, you're seeing podcasting microphones. And I've seen people try to use these and say, well, that's working for me. It's not the right tool for the project. You got to think about virtual workouts. You're not in one spot. That's why I'm using a podcasting microphone right now, but I'm not moving. I'm staying in one spot. And these
Right.
microphones are designed to pick up the audio that's right in front of them. It's not going to pick anything up behind it. And if I was to move around the microphone, it'll start picking up in different spots. But really, it's meant for just one stationary spot. Workouts, you are turning around, you're up and down, you're side to side, you're moving dynamically. And so you have to find something that's going to be able to work for that thing.
Yeah.
Then,
I think that's so important because I also have a lav that just clips on my shirt.
mm-hmm.
But for movement, like intense movement, it
Yeah,
doesn't stay put and it picks up. It just, the audio turns out not being great. So
yeah,
for big, heavy workouts, if you're planning on teaching them virtually, where you're going to be up, down, jumping around, or dancing, you probably want a headset type of thing that stays put and you don't have to mess with it. But for other
yeah,
instructional things that I know I'm going to do less movement with, I do switch over to that one frequently because I have a little bit of a different setup for that. So you're totally on the money about deciding what you need to accomplish and then kind of deciding what mic you need to help you meet that objective.
yeah, yeah. Something I want to switch gears to, because it was briefly touched on, but not as in depth. But it's such a important part of being professional, and that is your background. And if you are listening right now, you're not saying what I'm saying, but if you go find Aimee on social media, you'll see the background that she has. It's very professional. It has her name, her branding colors, and it's very professionally put together. Can you share the thought process into everything that goes into? Because I can tell you right now, that's not something that was just thrown together. There's thought that went into it, why the gym floor, all that kind of stuff. Can you share that?
Absolutely. Um, so this I'll be completely transparent. No pun intended since we're on a podcast. I guess I can't be, but this is a side of my basement. And I had a rubber kind of interlocking gym mat floor that was black on the floor before I started doing all this. And it was just kind of my personal workout area. The walls were white at that time. So I thought to myself, oh, this could be a great spot. Maybe I could set up on this end and I have this nice black floor, clean white walls. I did have some weights around the edges and I had like a locker in the back and it was it was good. So I knew I wanted to go for a clean look, but here's a rookie move. I had the black floor and I don't know about most people. I mean, I have a lot of black clothing. And even though sometimes I wasn't wearing black, I would sometimes wear black shoes or sneakers with, colored leggings or whatever. So what happened was, in all these things that I was recording, you couldn't see my leggings, my legs, or my feet necessarily because they were blending in with the floor. Now, in real life, you'd be able to see that, but on camera, it wasn't very clear. I mean, even though the camera shot was really good, it was easy not to have a really defined look. So I knew fairly quickly that I should change my floor color. So I ordered a new floor, and it's a light gray, and it's great because it never looks dirty, and any color really shows up on it. So that's one really important point. Your floor matters. And even though you think black is going to be best, it's really not. Make sure you film some things, look at it, and see if you can see everything the way you want your clients to see it. The background, in my case, I had a friend who was participating in my workouts, and she is a graphic designer, and said, hey, I was wondering, can I come over and like paint your space and just spruce it up? And I was like, oh, it never occurred to me that it needed sprucing. And it was kind of great because this was objective feedback that I got from someone who said, hey, I think we could do something better back there. And it was her idea to put my logo and my name on the back. And she's like, I remember her saying, I don't think it'll be that obnoxious. I looked at a few things and people have their name on things. And I was like, great. And it turned out that was a blessing in disguise, because whenever I'm on something with video, people know exactly where to find me. My website is my name. And so it really brought together all of my branding in this great package, without even necessarily meaning that at the onset. But anyways, so now I have a logo, some neat, just a little bit of, color in the back. I have white walls. I have a gray gym flooring that's cushioned, so I don't need to ever use another mat on top of it. It's cushioned. And I like a very clean look. And so I don't have any weights showing. I'll have out what my equipment is for the class in a towel and a water bottle, and that's basically all I show during my workouts. That's personal preference, but I've done a lot of research and again gotten a lot of feedback. And the general thing that I hear is people don't want to see dogs and cats and distracting things, even if it has to do with fitness equipment. Mm-hmm. I'm talking on and on, interrupt me whenever you want. But I do want to share, I had an instructor on my platform and he's awesome, but he didn't really have the space at the time. And he had a background that had a ton of fitness equipment, and it was neatly, put in the background. But my clients were saying, he's great. His classes are great. I love them, but the background is so distracting. And I thought, wow, what a great piece of feedback. Even though it's all fitness equipment, it's neat and organized. It's just too stimulating for some people. So it was a really great learning for me moving forward to just keep things clean, go with the minimal look. You'll never go wrong with that, I don't think. And that's really how I got this whole situation down.
Yeah. To put in a little note about the background and having stuff back there, when I started putting more time into YouTube videos, tutorials, I asked a colleague a friend that is a video editor, professional video editor. She does movies, she does commercials, anything like that, trailers. And I asked, hey, can you just take a look? And I just love to hear your feedback. I mean, she's giving me feedback on cuts and edits and things along that nature. And then she started talking about the background. She said, those chords back there, very honest feedback. Sometimes it's hard to take feedback, but she was like, those chords back there, you got to clean those up. Anything. Then the point to go along with what Aimee just said is that if there's anything in the background, people's eyesight will catch it. They will catch it and they will just stare at it and they won't be listening to you. And so anything that you said after they got distracted, it's over their head. And so eliminate any distractions is what I usually say. And it's one of those points where if you're in your living room, if you're somewhere in your house and you don't quite have a setup yet, just eliminate the distractions before they become one. Take that extra time and put toys away, put anything away that's going to take their gaze away from whatever you're trying to do on screen if you're teaching them. So that's just a little tip on top of what Aimee said, but all great stuff on her backdrop because it looks professional, looks great, and there's a thought process behind it. It's not just thrown together. I got to ask though, how is the sound though? I do want to know what the sound, I know that you wear a microphone for that. Did you ever invest anything for sound dampening?
I actually have on the other side of, so behind my camera, I have some
Hmm.
heavy curtains that
Nice.
hang. And that wasn't necessarily for sound, but I do think it does help with that regard.
Hmm.
But that was more for air conditioning on my side because I was dying back here because there just wasn't enough circulation, and I have a fan on as well,
Hmm.
but I have the air conditioner on and it would keep it in my small space as opposed to going to the whole room because there's another
Hmm.
end of space back there. But I
Hmm.
think that does help with the sound. I also
Yeah.
have a door that I'm able to shut. I will say that's an advantage of using this microphone. You even when I do workouts with my 5-year-old and we do some kid workouts,
Hmm.
you can't hear what he's saying to me while we're working out. Very, very
Very
slightly.
nice.
You have to really listen hard. And if I want him to be heard, I have to go down and put the mic right in front of his mouth. So the mic, like that's another really good reason for choosing a great microphone because it's only going to pick up your voice. And I've done some professional recording for classes, and I've had this mic on and I've played music loudly that we were moving to, and the mic is so good we weren't even going to use that music. They were laying over other audio and you don't even pick it up. So
Nice.
that's another reason to invest in a great mic.
Awesome. Yeah. So we've gone over a lot of great setup tips, background, technical items. Now I kind of want to get into the business stuff and even your thought process on things. Aimee, what have been some of your favorite benefits of instructing online?
Well, I think some of my most um, favorite things about the whole idea is that I have people who are working out with me virtually who never even thought about going to a gym before. It
Love
wasn't
it.
even on their radar. I have
I love it.
a fairly large chunk of members who did not belong to a gym before the pandemic, did not work out regularly, and they found this. They found a little community of people. Some of them, friends of friends started talking and they got together. They're like, let's do this together type of thing. So I'd say my most favorite thing about the whole virtual idea is that people are moving who would have never moved before. And I think there's a whole group of people out there who are just never going to go to a gym for whatever reason you want to talk about. They're just not going to do it. It's not their thing. And this is really accessible for that group. I also think there's a whole group of people that love the convenience of virtual workouts. They don't have to have a lot of equipment. They are finding that they're getting results the same, if not better, than they were when they were at the gym because they're more consistent. They go, it's less time consuming, they do it more often. I'd say those are the top two things that I think are huge payoffs for me to keep going.
I love it. I love it. And I mean, the first one is probably my favorite one because that is the majority. I think that that's the thing that a lot of fit pros should think about with going virtual or staying in the industry is that the majority, the overwhelming majority of people do not go to a gym or have a gym membership. And finding those ways to attract them, speak with them, or make them comfortable with exercise is the golden ticket. If you can figure that out and help one person and just continue that, you're doing a great job. And that's, I feel like, well, a lot of people enter the industries, they want to help the majority. I think that that's really the issue that we face. I mean, I know I'm getting a little deep here on this,
No, well,
but
you're spot on because more
yeah,
than half of America is not moving regularly.
yeah,
So that's just a fact.
yeah.
And we fit pros tend to make the fit fitter. We just keep trying to figure out fun ways to engage the people that are already engaged in some
Hmm.
way, where we
Hmm.
really should be trying to figure out how else can we reach people that aren't moving yet or
Yep.
need us even more who aren't motivated. What else can we try? So
Yep.
what a blessing to have, virtual make such a, an appearance or raise its head in such a great way because it's a whole nother avenue that people really weren't doing before
I
or
love it.
as much.
I love it a lot. Yeah, that's so spot on. Aimee, as we get to the podcast closing tips here, last question here, and you can take this however you want.
Mhm.
What are two closing thoughts on the future of the fitness industry that you would like to share with our listeners?
Well, I think, there's been a lot of discussion about virtual fitness and, in person. And there's been a lot of discussion about it in an or fashion, like it's one or the other. And I think from what I read and what I hear my colleagues say and what I'm experiencing myself is that it can be an and. I think as instructors, we can do both. I think brick and mortar gyms are moving towards being able to uh, like offer both or provide both services. So I think it's a win there. I mean, if you're a brick and mortar and you can say to your members, hey, with this membership, you get access to our on-demand library, which you can use while you're on vacation or whatever. How cool is that? So also think from a client's perspective, maybe I like going to the gym and the in-person community and the whole thing is fun. Awesome. Maybe I do that a couple times a week, but what about those weeks that get busy or I can't fit something in? Is it easier for me to hop on a live virtual class and still get to see my people? Or can I have access to an on-demand library, which you can create both of those things if you're a virtual instructor? So I think those are one great point that it's an and for the client and the instructor. We can have both. They can coexist. They can even support each other synergistically, right?
Yep.
And as far as one other tip, I'd say that I think it depends on what your goal is as an instructor and how you want to present your product. But I think I see it as a great way to connect with people that haven't really found a way to move yet, like we just talked about. But I really see that as the future. Is virtual fitness, or whether it's live or recorded sessions, is it another way to meet people where they are right now, like in their home or in their preferred environment, right? So I think, not only can we have both and it could be a value add to memberships, but also the other part being maybe this is a really great new avenue to explore reaching other people through obviously not in person, but a virtual method to maybe get people moving who haven't moved before.
Love it. I love it. Aimee, as we sign things off here, can you finish up by sharing your social media information and your website link?
Absolutely. My website is my name, Aimee Nicotera. It's AIMEE Nicotera, NICOTERA, all one word, .com. And on that site, you can just join my virtual studio. You could just drop in for a class. As an instructor or a fitness professional, you might love to see how other people are doing it, right? I know I did a lot of research like that. So drop in, see how my experience is for you. And that's a great way to kind of explore some different things. On Instagram, I'm just Aimee Nicotera. On Facebook, I'm Aimee Nicotera or Aimee Nicotera Fitness. I just keep it simple. One thing to remember.
I love it. Aimee, thank you for being the first guest on the Balance Podcast, giving tips, giving so much for people to listen and take away and apply right away. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.